Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to study about the Light Buddha. So last time we discussed about uh, how the Buddha uh, have blessed the people in Vesali to overcome the epidemics. And today we continue to discuss about there's some special event that occur during uh, his time of uh, teaching around the Kapilavastu or the second kingdom. So there was the conflict between the seconds and Korea. Let me show you the map so that you can follow what going on here. Okay, here. So here you see second kingdom here, Korea here. So basically, they were the Buddha relatives. So they have the conflict due to the dispute about a small river, and it say that somehow this little river divide the two country, Robini River, and somehow because of the drought, so they didn't have enough water for their farm means. So that's why each of them tried to reverse that little river waters into their land, and it created conflicts and both of the side of these people in both sides of the river tried to reverse the water into their land, and they didn't use each other, so they yell, they curse, they scold and slander each other, up to the point that both of the royal families for these countries or kingdoms try to wage the war with each other. So somehow the Buddha knew that he need to go there to help them solving this dispute. So when he went there, he took the position in the middle of the rivers and used psychic power to fly up to the sky and demonstrate all kind of miracles, psychic power to get attention from the people on both sides of the river. And let me show you the image here. So the Buddha sat in between these two sides to calm their mind out before they wage the war to kill each other. And this image represents these two sides of the country. The middle is the little river, and he emit the light while he was flying up to the air. That's what happened and make them to pay attention on the Buddha words. And of course, let me explain further. The Buddha did not display his sacred cow for fun, or for pleasure, or for showing up. He could display his sacred cow whenever it's necessary to help people, to rescue people, and in this case, to resolve the conflict between the two small kingdoms because of the river. So when he uh, ascended down to the ground and asked the noblemen of these two country or kingdom, he asked that, what's the matter? What happened? So the noblemen of both sides came up and responded to Buddha about what they tried to dispute, the water. So each side present their argument and accuse other side that try to divert the water into their own land. So after listening to this dispute and argument, so the Buddha say, well, noblemen, what do you think? The water is more precious, the blood of human is more precious. So of course, both sides agree that uh, the bloodshed should not be done. The blood of human beings is more precious than the water. And somehow from that time on, they listen to the Buddha teaching to calm their mind down without initiating any fight. So the Buddha uh, told them that, well, we need to live in harmonies. We're not supposed to fight each other. It's not worthy to kill each other because of little waters. And so he recalled a story in the past, what we call the Chakra tale stories. And here, you know that sometimes the Buddha uh, recall the past life stories as the moral for his listeners. So in this case, the Buddha retold stories in the past. There was a bear that uh, walked around the forest, and somehow in the evening he rests under the big trees, and somehow the branch on the big tree fall into his body and hurt him. So in the morning, he was so angry that he tried to uproot the trees to the ranch, and the uh, 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 spirit of that tree was so angry too, because if he uproot that tree, there was no way for him to live on that tree anymore. So here is the notion that I like to explain for you a little bit further, that according to Asian myths, every tree has um, uh, the tree spirit, especially the big trees. So they like uh, to live or reside in the tree as the way that we have the house to stay. So when the bear tried to uproot that trees to rearrange the branch that fell onto his body that hurt him, so that this bear could not use all his strength to uproot the tree. So he went around to find some ways to uproot the trees. But somehow he met a hunter or a man. That means he happened to go to the forest to seek for some special wood to build the horse carriage. And so somehow the bear stopped him and say, well, what you doing here in this forest? So the man say, well, I'm go around to look for special wood so that I can build the horse carriage for me. So that's where he's so happy and say, well, if that's the case, I have a special tree I know of. Why don't you go there? I will show you that tree. You can cut down that trees and use the lumber to build your horse carriage. So this man, somehow he was so surprised to hear the bear speaking the human language. And also he's so delightful that the bear would show him the place to find the precious trees for him to build to make the horse carriage. So the bear led him to the location that that tree branches fall onto his back that hurt him. So the bear showed him, say, "Well, see that? That's the tree. You can cut down and use the lumber for your horse carriage." So after that, the bear walked away. And of course, the three spirits were so angry about the scam of the bear that he tried to use the man as a means to cut down the tree that's in his house. So this three spirit reappears himself as another man and approached to the man that tried to cut down that tree. And that man say, well, what you doing here? So this man he say, well, I try to cut down this tree so that I can build my own horse carriage. So the man that's been this tree spirit say, well, if that's the case, yes, you can cut down this tree, but remember after this, you need to chase after the bear that show you the location of this tree so that you can get its skeleton uh, to reinforce the horse carriage. So that man he's so happy to hear that. So after that, the tree spirit disappeared. So that man he ran and chased after the bear to kill it, to get the bone of the bear. And after that, he went back to chop down the whole trees. So the Buddha recalled his story and say, well, you see, because of this dispute between the tree spirit and the bear, both of them get lost. The bear lost his life, and the tree spirit lost his tree. So it's better to live in harmonies instead of fighting each other. And he recalled another story too. So there was a group of quail that lived together, and somehow there was a leader of the quail. And when they flew to the forest, and they got trapped by the hunter, and the leader of the quails told them, "Well, don't worry. Why don't we work together so that if Earth will lift up the net and fly away from this place, so all boys will be free." So when they listened to the leader of the well, and yeah, they did. They flew up together at the same time to lift up the net that were put out by the hunter. And so when they flew away from that place in the far distance, and after that they together let the net tangle in the big trees, and after that they could be free. And so because they listened to the wise leaders, quail, that's why they could be free from that net, that trap. But somehow in the groups of quails, they argue with each other, and they say, well, this is my effort to live up, and you didn't do anything and so forth. So because of this dispute, so the next time when they got trapped by the hunter who set the net, uh, who lowered the net down to them and trapped them, so they could not fly anymore because of the dispute. That's why all of them got caught and killed. So Buddha conclude about this story. If you guys work together in harmonies, you can be successful. Otherwise, if you don't work together, if you fight, you harm each other. So that's a really famous story. Let me share with you. There's some short video clips, similar video clips. It, of course, is for the children, but still, it illustrate this type of story the Buddha want to teach this to uh, group of people. Let me play this for you.
Banyan tree, which is home to the nests of many birds. One day, a hunter happened to come to the tree. Seeing that many birds lived there, he set up his net below the tree and scattered a few grains of rice to attract them. A flock of pigeons flying past the banyan tree saw the grains of rice and went down to eat them. Suddenly, a huge net fell over them and trapped them. They struggled to get out of it but couldn't. They could see the hunter walking towards them, looking delighted, having caught so many pigeons. The pigeons were distressed and thought the end was near. But the wise king of the pigeons had a plan and said, "We should all fly up, carrying the net with us. Once we manage to get away from the hunter, we can think of what to do next." The pigeons listened to the king's advice. Each pigeon held a part of a huge net in his beak, and all of them flew up together. The hunter was amazed to see this happening. He tried to catch them, but they were too fast. The king of the pigeons knew a mouse who lived not far from there and could help them escape the net. He only sent
Anyway, so this is the story that we probably got from the Buddhist chocolate tail. You know, you see, instead of the quail, it's a group of the pigeons, and the king of the pigeon remind them to fly up and carry the net so that they could escape from the hunter traps. So again, after saying this kind of story, the chocolate tail story or the Paris life story, the Buddha conclude again that if you work together in harmonies, if you live together in harmonies, you will be more happy and successful. But if you divide and try to kill each other, you bring disaster for yourself. So uh, both the groups, since they were the Buddha relatives, and so listen to the Buddha and give up the fighting. And they say that if Buddha didn't come, they could kill each other because of this type of water dispute. So here, this illustrates that the Buddha didn't not the Buddha not only uh, taught them to live in harmonies, but he put in action to stop them to kill each other. So that's why, as a Buddhist, if we see any kind of conflict, a dispute, if it's between our ability, it's better for us to have to resolve the conflicts so that people can live in harmony with each other. So after that, after this kind of dispute has been resolved, so the two group of nobles from this Korea and Second Kingdoms agreed to encourage 250 men to become the Buddha disciple, or this means to become monks. So yes, they set out 250 men from each group to follow Buddha to become monks. But somehow, since they did not have intention to work on the spiritual path, that's why somehow at first uh, most of them are so frustrated. They didn't have any inclination to do meditation, to learn the Buddha teaching, and so forth. And they somehow miss their family members, they miss their wives, their children, and so forth. So the Buddha knew even they have the good connection with him in the past, but due to their attachment, so they could not let go of those attachments to work on the spiritual path. So the Buddha uh, uh, then took them. He used his psychic power to take them to the Himalayan mountain to see all kind of scenes, the beautiful scenes around that areas, and somehow it's so helpful for them to forget about what they thought or what they attached to, especially to their family members, their wealth, and so forth. So when they were there, they practiced diligently, and eventually they, most of them, attend the first stage of arhatship. Um, so due to the Buddha experience means to take them there, is so helpful for them to refocus the mind, to work on the spiritual path. And uh, listening to this kind of story, I think it's better for us to recognize at first when we talk about the conflict between the Shakyan clan and the Korea clan, that sometimes it's better for us to live in harmony with each other instead of fighting, instead of creating any war that may be harmful. So it's so applicable for us in this modern age that we need to resolve any conflict in non-violent ways. Otherwise, it's so harmful for us and others. If we use the weapons to kill each other, um, and the conflicts may be widened and more serious, especially in some country like Middle East or wherever, that we need to find some ways to resolve the conflict in a peaceful way, in the harmonious way, so that people can live in peace and harmonious. Um, Otherwise, if we fight each other because of money, of wealth, a position, anything, we harm ourselves. So this type of moral story is so applicable to our modern age society. That's why it's better for us to approach with the peaceful means to resolve any kind of dispute. And of course, for the young people, if we instill them with this kind of idea, the peaceful resolve, the peaceful approach to any kind of conflict is better, is healthy for them and others. Otherwise, if we get use any means of violence, again, we bring the disaster of ourselves and others. So that's why that's the first moral story that we need to recognize. And the second one is that sometimes, no matter who we are or the situation we live in, let's say when we go to school, when we work for others or for our own business, let's say if we get stuck with our project, with our homework, with our tests and so forth, it's better for us to take a break from that kind of problems for a while, so that we can refresh our mind to find different solution to solve. It's like that 500 monks. At first, they didn't have any mind, any intention to become monks, but because they were chosen by their own people to become monks. That's why they so frustrated at first. But because of the experience, he uses psychic power to bring them to different areas. And of course, this is a legend, whether we believe or not. Probably in the religious way, you can say that Buddha led them to go to different places so that they would have the fresh mind and recognize the value of spiritual life. That's why they start the practice harder, and eventually they attain the first stage of arahantship. So in our life, again, if somehow we get stuck with our project, with our test, whichever, it's better to postpone, take a break from that type of problems for a while. After that, we can come back to solve the problems. Otherwise, if we get attached or get stuck with that problems, there's no way out. It's easy for us to give up our task. So that's the two moral that we learn from those stories. So we'll move on. For the Buddha during his fifth rainy retreat, so somehow he knew the news that his fathers, the king Suddhodana, on the verge of dying because of aging. So the Buddha went back to visit his father and tend him while his fathers were on the deathbed. So at that time, most of the royal family's members gathered, and somehow at that time, the Buddha calmed down his fathers and gave him some short advice and teaching that calmed his mind. And also during that time, Rahula, that's with his son, Ananda, Rahula, and Nudura, or most of the monks who were the prince before came back to see the king Suddhodana before he passed away. So at that time, there was no one that has been appointed to be the next second king. So somehow the Buddha suggests that the general Mahamana would be the next king, because all the prince that's supposed to take the throne had left the palace to become monks and follow the Buddha guidance already. So the Buddha suggested to his royal families, as well as the king Suddhodana, or that is better to choose Mahamana to be the next king. So at that time, everyone agreed with the Buddha proposal, and the king Suddhodana also agreed with that proposal, and promote Mahanama as the next king for the second class. And so later on, it's not too long after that, the Suddhodana, the king Suddhodana, passed away with the peace. And according to legend, it says that on the verge of death, the Buddha gave his father the last teaching, and somehow his father attended the third stage of hardship before he passed away. And also, according to the legend, it says that even the Buddha carried his father's coffin to the graveyard to demonstrate that he wanted to repay his father's kindness. And he set up good example for his disciples and Buddhists to follow, to repay the kindness of the parents. And of course, later on, his aunt want to be Buddhist monk, but we will discuss about that later on. In this case, we see that even he has become Buddha, he still show his respect to his fathers, to set example for his disciple to follow. And according to the historical record, after Mahanama became the second king, he got married with a concubines that came from the low class. So both of them gave birth to a prince, and this prince, when he went back to his grandfather's kingdom, the king Pasen Nadi of the Kosali. Let me explain to you. Let me show you the map so that you can follow what I try to discuss. I try to explain. Okay. Let me share with you the screen. Okay. Here. So you see here, Lumini, the second clans, and Kosala kingdom, and Savatthi. That's the whole areas where the Buddha walk back and forth to teach in this area. This is not part of India here. So after the King Suddhodana, that means the Buddha father passed away. King, Mahanama became the next king, and the king of Kosala, Pasenadi, sent a young girl. This means he's the concubine from the court to get married to become the concubine of the new king Nadama of second class. So, but this young girl, she came from the low class. I remember in India, more than 2,500 years ago, even now, people classify themselves into 4 different class systems, and we discussed about that. The first one is the Brahma priest, the highest class in society. And the second one is the royal class. And the third is the merchant, business people. And the last one is the slave, servant. And the fifth one does not belong to any of those 4. Is called untouchable. So the younger that the King Senadi sent to be the concubine of the new second king, the Mahanama, came from the low class. So, but they conceal the secret that younger came from that low class, and eventually somehow people knew that. So both of them got married, and somehow they have the son. When this boy was young, they hang around and play around with the second royal children, and most of the royal children in the second court despise him, they scold him that you're not worthy for playing with us because your mother was a low class person. So this boy, he was so angry that later on, when he grew up, he became the king of Kosala kingdom, and he waged the war to kill all or kill most of the second clans to the range what he has gone through when he was young. And according to the legend, the Buddha tried to stop him several times from killing his own people. But for the first and second times, the Buddha could stop the new king of Kosala. But for the third time, the Buddha is recognized as, oh, this is the karma for the second clans. And eventually, the new king of Kosala killed most of the second royal families, and later on he annexed the second kingdom into Kosala kingdom. So that's what happening even during the Buddha times. And so again, that's happened to the second class. According to legend, they say that why the young king of Kosala tried to capture the palace of the second class. So one of the Buddha's disciples Momoyana, the one who was foremost in psychic power. He used his psychic power to put 500 second royal people into his bowl and flew up to the air. But somehow when he flew down and looked into the bowl, of them became blood. So again, it demonstrates that whenever karma is ripen, there's no way for us to escape from. That's why the Buddha say, as soon as we create the karma, whether it's good or bad, we cannot hide from them. Whether we fly to the air, or we dive down to the ocean, or hide in the earth, the karma would fall upon us. So we have to be careful with that. And with this kind of drama happen, so the Buddha recalled the story in the past, and he said that in the past there was a village. In that village there was a pond, and because of the hot weather, that ponds were dry out. This does mean there's no more water in that pond, and all the creatures in that pond, like the fish, crabs, and so forth, could not survive at all. But before they died, all the villages, all people in that village came out and captured those fishes, crabs, frog, and so forth, so that they would consume them. And because of that karma, now he said that the villagers in the past are the second royal members, and all the creature in that ponds, like the fishes, the crabs, the frogs, and so forth, they were the young king of Kosala kingdom, soldier armies that tried to deranged their past killing. So again, this kind of the story illustrate how we need to pay attention on our karma. Whichever thing we do, we have to be careful what kind of karma we want to put out there. So that's why we need to set out the good karma to help other people, to generate generosity, to spread our love and kindness, and so forth, so that we can get the good retribution later on. Otherwise, we have to pay for our bad karma, like this case. So it's time up. So let me stop here today, and next time we can discuss the other topic. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. See you then.